Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Urban Developers Proptech vDemo Day. My name's Adam DeMarco. I'm the Chief Executive and Founder of the Urban Developer, and I'm delighted to bring together and to moderate this morning a fantastic new concept that we've developed to really bring together innovative tech companies from across the Australian real estate sector in a new way, in a virtual way, in an interactive way, to better understand what kind of innovation's happening on the ground, in buildings and across the industry at large. As we're all kind of joining the session this morning, I welcome you all on behalf of our team, and thank you again for your continued support of what we're doing here at the Urban Developer by supporting this and the companies that have joined us today by supporting us. We're continuing to deliver free independent news to the property industry. Now, this morning's session is really built around presentations, interactive presentations that showcase four really interesting businesses doing different things in PropTech in Australia. We're going to open up this morning's session with a bit of a keynote from Stephen McDonald. He's the partner of the PropTech Connection. And we're going to look into what is the current state of affairs for PropTech. What's happening here in Australia, what was happening pre-COVID, what's happening post-COVID, and what the sort of the longer term sort of trajectory is for investment and for innovation in technology in property. After that, we'll be kicking off with the first of our four presentations. We'll hear from Ground Floor, a fantastic business with an elegant no-touch solution for parcel deliveries. We'll also hear from Concept V, a photorealistic digital tour product that allows developers and others within the industry to showcase unbuilt property. We'll then jump into a presentation on Pay Apps, which is a fantastic technology which bridges the gap between organisations and stakeholders for the purposes of progress claims in construction. And then we'll round it out with a presentation from Comnia. It's an Australian project collaboration platform that specialises in project management, communication and document control. So those four presentations will all be delivered. They're 10 minutes each, and then we'll have some time for some discussion after that as well. I'll be moderating a Q&A with all of our presenters this morning, where you get the opportunity to ask your questions as well. Now, enough about me and enough about what we're doing today. We're going to kick straight into it with the first of our presentations. Stephen, we're delighted that you can join us this morning for the State of Affairs presentation. A little bit about the PropTech Connection. They're an enabler of technology adoption. From the emerging tech side, PTC helps with access to the right customers, access to the growth funding, and access to the global expansion plans for businesses. They work very closely with venture capital firms, both here domestically and internationally, and ultimately want to see the best for the sector. Stephen, thank you for joining us. Where are you today?
I'm currently in Bondi.
You're in Bondi, beautiful Sydney. Well, thank you again. I'm going to get you to share your screen. I'll jump out of my presentation and allow you to jump into yours. As you do that, I'll give you a couple of seconds. There we go. No technical issues. Stephen, fantastic. I'm going to leave it to you. Take it away.
Thank you, Adam, and thank you for that introduction, and thank you to the rest of the people on this call for taking the time today. Before I go into what I'm going to talk about today, I'll give you just a quick background into myself and also our company. I was formerly an investment director of a PropTech venture capital fund. I've also worked on the investment side for a renewable energy venture capital fund, and I spent 5 years at Mirvac. My business partner, and formerly the national lead of KPMG PropTech Advisory, has set up his own PropTech startup and has also worked for the real estate part of Macquarie. As a result of that, we have 5 years specific experience in PropTech, 15 years across real estate and project, and have seen, we estimate, around about 500 PropTech propositions. So we're quite entrenched in the space, and we're quite entrenched on every side of that, whether that be the investment side or the Proptech company side, or whether the buyer of the technology side. In terms of today, I'm going to focus on 4 key areas, but they do kind of flow onto each other, so there's a bit of overlap there. First will be the macro overview, and that's looking at the recent developments in Proptech, primarily from an investment point of view. Secondly, we're going to look at the themes that have then spawned from that investment and a number of the challenges that have arisen with this much capital and this much ideas coming into a traditionally conservative sector. From there, we're then going to look at the technologies that I'm sure you're all aware of that are actually being implemented within the sector at the moment. And then obviously, given current events, we're then going to do a very quick dive into what the world might look post-COVID. This is a very short time to discuss a number of quite meaty topics, so that will be quite thematic based. My email is at the end of this presentation should you want to discuss, and obviously, as Adam said, there's a Q&A at the end of this as well. So as we're all probably aware, Proptech is a fundamentally growing subsect, if you like, of real estate, or adjunct to real estate. It was $4 billion invested in 2014 and up to $18 billion in 2018. As a result of that, there's been an explosion of Proptech companies globally. There's 6,000 companies in the world. To put into perspective how quick the transformation has been, 1,000 of those 6,000 incorporated in 2015. So 17% of the market was created in 1 year. This has resulted in is the largest property VC fund in the world being created last year, and that was with Fifth Wall in America, and they raised $500 million US. To put that in an Australian context, there's been 330 million Aussie dollars in totality spent in the market. So having that quantum of funds floating around globally points to a sector that's in rude health. In terms of the breakdown of those companies, it's actually quite interesting because most of them are in residential. And at Proptech Connection, our view is that's because that is the sector that has the most high frequency of transactions, most manual processes, and most people interactions. I.e., it has a lot of opportunities for what we perceive as low-hanging fruit to revolutionize that industry. And I'll give you an example. Depending on who you speak to in the market, because there's a number of players there trying to solve that manual touch point from the initial lead for a residential agent through to settlement. As I say, depending on who you speak to, it's up to 220, but at least 150. So there's 150 to 220 manual touch points in that process. Now, if you multiply that by the number of transactions in the world, the operational costs and the customer experience there could be improved significantly. I also think that the retail number there is a bit of a misnomer. Retail has notoriously been on the front foot in terms of engaging with its customer, things like Wi-Fi in the centers. So I think that a lot of the low-hanging fruit that I've been referring to has probably already been taken care of in retail. So as a result of a number of economic factors that are other pressures that are kind of accompanying this venture capital investment, you've started to see a number of core themes arising. Some of them have been around for a while, but have been dusted down. So ESG and wellness, health and safety. But these concepts of customer tenant engagements, reach becoming brands, is actually as a result of millennials. Millennials don't view the historic view, if you like, of that one job person and looking to kind of have a much more flexible arrangement. You saw WeWork coming out as well, so then decided to reposition themselves as brands and being known for their buildings as opposed to just being a passive landlord. You're also seeing as well the high house prices globally in the major cities, resulting in kind of innovative fintech products like crowdfunding of projects. And then as a result, as I think also because of a lot of capital feeding in due to low bond yields or low interest rates back into the real estate sector, you're starting to see behemoths out with the sector starting to target the sector. IKEA's already started doing modular building. Google, until recently because of COVID, had a precinct in Seattle, and then Amazon has a series of residential projects as well. So as you can see, there's a lot of pressure in the sector and there's a lot of cash coming into companies to disrupt the sector. So what we saw as a result of that was this huge spike in expectation. You saw videos and you saw evangelists and proponents of Proptech saying, we're going to have Amazon drop your deliveries to your house by drone, we're going to have robotic bricklaying, we're going to have acquisitions by numbers. And you saw this massive inflated expectations. However, very quick, or not very quickly, but within 2 to 3 years, what you saw was that kind of disillusionment that's described here. And the reason for that we'll come on to in a minute, but the material reason for that was there was a lot of generic propositions given to real estate companies. So you saw a lot of companies actually coming in. So a good example is CRMs, and I'm not picking on Salesforce, but a Salesforce type product that a generic CRM would come into the market and be implemented by a real estate company, and it wouldn't be the right fit for market. So what we're seeing now is actually a much more conservative / hesitant implementation of Proptech, and we think that is solvable, but you do have to be aware of some of the headwinds involved. And what are these headwinds? Well, for us, there needs to be a fundamental understanding that the portfolio owners want different things. And what that means is being an owner of a retail center and comparing to someone that has a retail center doesn't mean they want the same product. And we heard that time and time and again, that generic technology products that were offered, because obviously the technology company was VC backed and looking to scale globally, wasn't giving the buyer of the technology the right outcome. So there was a huge problem there initially at the start, and that's an education piece, and you're seeing that now that people are starting to understand their customer a lot better and actually shaping their target market in that way. The second reason is that you had a lot of technology products come out and they were saying, I'm a SaaS product, or it wasn't dependent on the realities of what real estate is. I'm not saying all products, but this is the initial products initially. And what I mean by that is that the risk in terms of integrating technology, particularly in a heavily compressed yield environment, is even greater. And the example I give is one of our clients is a global healthcare investor. And they were explaining to us that they own these massive hospitals with low one-floor buildings, with massive, taking up massive space with massive land surrounding it outside city centers. So absolutely right for solar. And they said, but we don't want to take the risk in investing in high capex projects because we have got so much pressure on our yield because we're ultimately a financial product. So they were seeing all these technologies that they could into, but the one they actually went with was the one that was able to afford to wear the capex and do a revenue share post. Now, if that is the model, then that's actually a very different model from having these lean 2-year backed VC style startups. So what I think was going to happen in the market is that you're going to start to see companies like that are able to understand that model succeed. As anyone knows, and the third reason is, as anyone knows, if they've been to Ryan's bar on a Friday afternoon, that real estate is very heavily relationship based. And a lot of actually the low hanging fruit within real estate is actually monetizing the data within people. So you have great relationships, you have great anecdotal knowledge. If you're able to structure that data on platforms, you would actually give rise to more efficient transactions. However, and to be fair to the commercial agencies, for example, they've invested very heavily because they know it's coming. But for the end user, there's a realization that this is cannibalistic. So there's a heavy behavioral resistance there. The final reason why there's conservatism and actually that enthusiasm has been slightly tapered is we're still trying to find our feet within real estate in terms of where the value lies. If I deliver a product to a commercial building that benefits the employees, who pays for it? And we're still kind of finding that out. An owner could be a joint venture with a sovereign wealth fund, a domestic REIT, external asset manager, multiple tenants, and the employees as well. So you have multiple people benefiting from the value of that, but the market's still quite embryonic. So in terms of determining who exactly pays for it, we're still finding it and finding our way. And a good example about the nuances that I was referring to is if you look at something like who pays for telco coverage. In a commercial building, it's the landlord that pays for telco coverage. In a retail building, it's the telco that pays. So understanding those nuances, but also having those predefined relationships, say in this scenario you pay, in this scenario I pay, is still to happen in the technological center. So that was a slightly pessimistic view of things, but I wanted to kind of make it realistic. This is the kind of more exciting view in terms of what's happening within technology. As you can see, there's a number of types of technologies. I'm sure you've heard of a lot of them. We see a lot of the ones that are on that inflated expectation curve there to occur in the future, but not for the next 5 to 10 years. What we believe is if you're a buyer of a technology, the key at the moment is actually monetizing your own value of your own data. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit in terms of, there's a lot of transactions or interactions within real estate that are still heavily people-centric, are still heavily manual, And we believe that if you automate your workflow or go back to your data, then that's actually where your true value is. As a strategy, we suggest doing that to ensure that you get buy-in for future technology projects by demonstrating a clear ROI. So that's where we are so far in terms of Proptech globally and within Australia. COVID's an interesting one, and we've had a few discussions with people just saying, well, do we pull out of our innovation programs or do we actually invest in technology? My fundamental belief is I think the way that we use real estate is going to fundamentally change. As a result, yields and returns are actually going to be impacted. So this is the greatest opportunity I believe you've had in the last 20, 30 years to be able to actually then integrate technology. In terms of where I think how it's going to impact residential, and you saw this post-SARS, but the result of COVID, I think, is going to lead to the demand for a concept such as breathing as a service or health as a service. Ultimately, what that means is, as a residential developer, I believe you're going to be required, either by law or by consumer demand, to put in air conditioning quality that enables customers to feel comfortable should a COVID environment happen again. And they're already doing studies around the HEPA filters there and whether it can actually condition out that kind of strain of virus. What that means is that with rates already quite tight, the developer is either going to have to take a margin hit, and as I said, it's already quite tight. So what I see is happening is he's then going to have to make a decision about what he does next. And I believe that decision will be, he will then move into that strata management piece. The ROI and the CapEx of something like high quality HVAC will be very expensive. And the only way they can get that back is by managing the strata. That will then allow them to go down the quasi build to rent model where you aggregate the amenities and that feeds back that ROI period. The second reason why I think the residential developers will go down this route is that you're going to see a need for home work environments. The 2-bedroom product and the 1-bedroom products have already been compressed in terms of size. To mandate that people now want a 5 to 10 square meter office to work from home from, it's going to require the developer to either eat into that living space, requiring a greater communal area for everyone to use, or provide communal offices. So either way, the developer's role is going to become closer to that build to rent model, except they're actually selling. So there's going to be a murking of the lines there. In terms of retail, again, there's that health piece I discussed. And what you're seeing with retail already is you had an asset that was designed to keep people in there as long as possible to boost dwell time, to now an asset which is now going online, and you're seeing it already. One of the REITs was telling me last week that the last 12 weeks they've seen year-on-year growth in this new technology they've put in, where they've effectively made every bricks and mortar retail shopping centre online. So you now have to fundamentally change that asset though, because as I said, it was designed to keep people within the building, where now you're actually looking to have it as a click and collect place from goods that have been bought online. So you're going to see wayfinding technology come to the fore there as well. Commercial, again, very, very difficult space. Again, that health aspect I've discussed. I think the key point there, and I don't think it's been explored yet fully, is also there's probably a legal ramification as well as an employer. So I think there'll be a greater need for that health or that air conditioning to be up to a certain quality, where if you're asking people to go back to buildings to work and they get ill, I suspect there'll be legal ramifications in the future. There's also going to be a need to have connectivity around your satellite offices. There's a lot of technology already done there, but I think if you're going to have a series of offices, that's where the initial technology and the use of that data referred to earlier will be. The third thing is, and I'm sure many of you have heard of workplace apps, but the reason workplace apps actually arose was because of people felt less connected within offices. So that move to hot desking actually moved those connections, those water cooler chats, those runs at lunch. I think if you're going to have a structure where you have a headquarters, you work from home and you have satellite office, that connectivity is going to be lost. So you're actually going to see a rise in technologies that bring people together. And it's a funny, it's a quirky anecdote, if you like, but we did hear a pitch last week of someone that's developing technologies for the 4 o'clock drinks on Zoom that allows them to play games, so bingo or trivia quizzes or whatever, but specifically for organizations. So you're already seeing people start to morph into that space. So to round off, there is a lot of technologies out there, but where we see the low-hanging fruit, or the immediate ROI, or the closer to immediate ROIs in that transaction people-centric area, Also, as well as digitizing and data structuring as much as possible and understanding the value of your own data. It is difficult because there's a lot of people out there purporting to be able to get that value for you, but that is a journey that needs to be done for you to then, I believe, go on to the next parts of technology. There is an investment return. With any investment, it's difficult, but real estate technology in particular has its own nuances that need to be understood from both sides of the transaction. For us, the most successful technology companies are the ones that are actually focused on very hyper-targeted markets. They may want to be global, but they're actually focusing on their customer first. And you'll find out if you're a buyer of technology very quickly which companies they are. And as I've just noted, we are evangelists for technology, and we also believe that COVID will act as a catalyst for that. Thank you very much for your time, everyone. As I say, here's my email, and obviously I'll be on the question and answers later.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Stephen. I've got lots of questions which I will hold for our Q&A later this morning. Now, just a reminder to everybody as well, at the end of this presentation this morning, we will be sending out everyone's individual contact details, as well as their slides and presentations. In addition to that, Stephen's contact details have just been shared within our chat room, so please reach out, connect on LinkedIn and introduce yourself. And if you're looking for more information about what Stephen or any of our presenters do today, please reach out and say good day. Now we are going to move on to our first presentation. That's Stephen. Thank you very much. I'm delighted to introduce Chris Van Ray. He's the Chief Product Officer and co-founder of Ground Floor. Now, let me tell you a bit about Ground Floor. They're a Melbourne-based company, and what they've produced and developed what's described as an elegant no-touch solution for parcel deliveries and collections in apartments, commercial offices, student residences, and other precincts. Now, I can't really think of a time when this has become as relevant as it is today with the situation that we're going through. Ground Floor provides smart lockers, software, and expert customer service for 24/7 automated management of parcel deliveries, as well as equipment sharing, key exchange, linen drop-off, and more. Chris, we're delighted to have you join us today. Thank you for coming along. I will jump out of my share screen and allow you to take control of the presentation. Chris, welcome.
Thanks, Adam. I feel like you've said it all now, so actually I'll just pass on to the next person. No, thanks for having me. Like Adam said, I'm one of the co-founders, and my role in the business is actually to lead the product, so the design of the product and the development team of the product. And so what I'm going to do today is really just take people through a bit of our journey of where we started and what we're doing now. So I'll bring up my presentation and I'll take you through it. So our journey really started in the residential sector, and it was the simple "sorry, we missed you" card that really inspired us at the start. I think everyone in Australia has experienced at least a few of these where they're waiting for something and they're really excited about it, and then instead of getting the thing they wanted, they got a card that meant they have to go and reorganize delivery, or they've got to try to get to a post office on a Saturday morning. So I think everyone has felt this pain, but people in apartments feel this more than general. It's a real pain for people because many times couriers can't even get into the buildings. So it's a huge pain, and they're just screaming out for this to be answered. But we started looking into it, and we were really researching the problem, and we discovered that it actually isn't limited to apartment buildings. All kinds of buildings have these problems, and so we set out to find a solution, and in the end we designed something that really caters for all types of high density buildings. And so the only types of projects that we don't develop products for are individual houses. So the problem is actually really big. Parcel deliveries are growing at over 10% each year, and it's actually staggering what the numbers are. So in a single year, an apartment building with 10,000 units might get about 10,000 items annually. A commercial building, for example, with 30 stories over 65,000 items and 15,000 courier visits. And so I think most buildings don't really kind of have a sense of what that scale is until they do a study and they really look into this and they find that, wow, this is actually a huge problem. And gosh, think about the impacts that has on our lifts and our loading bays and all sorts of problems, as well as just the user experience of people receiving things. And those are actually the pre-COVID stats as well. It's just, you know, it's ramped up to a really high number now. But if those numbers don't really resonate with you, then maybe some of these pictures will, because I think these are familiar to people. And we hear from people that have bought these brand new apartments. They've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions potentially, and they've moved in. And right from the start, they go, oh my gosh, I've got this huge problem that I didn't anticipate. And it's really disappointing for them. And we hear from developers that they didn't anticipate that problem sometimes. And it was only 6 months after the project was finished that they're coming to us saying, actually, people are really unhappy and we need a solution for this. So on the left there, you can see a typical mailroom where everyone's parcels are intermingled and anyone can walk in there and take them. The middle one is actually the fire escape of a brand new apartment building. So a really unsafe way of storing parcels, obviously, as well as not a great experience for people. I'm not sure how easy it is to see the top right image there, but it's a really beautiful co-working space that's I'm sure some architect and interior designer put a heap of effort into, but on the floor and on the tables all around the reception staff are just piles of boxes. And bottom right there, you know, this is a beautiful building with a 24-hour concierge, but of course concierges aren't always at their desk, and so lots of things just still get dumped by the couriers. So it's a really big problem in buildings, but when we kind of extrapolate that out and look at how that affects a whole city, then it's just phenomenal. So in City of Melbourne, there are 10 to 12,000 delivery trucks every day, which I just think is phenomenal. It's an incredible problem. And when you think about the congestion and emissions that causes to a city, you know, we really saw that as an opportunity to come up with a solution that could make a meaningful difference to that and you know, have our impact on the sustainability of the city. And that's really driven by the fact that so many parcels aren't delivered successfully the first time. So a second delivery attempt, third delivery attempt is often required to successfully make a delivery. And then there's people who are heading to the post office or a depot or whatever to pick up the item that they missed. So there've been lots of improvements in delivery infrastructure in the last few decades to address those difficulties. And I guess there's an understanding that the last mile of delivery is really hard. But when we started looking into it and researching a lot, we discovered that really it's not the whole last mile, it's just those last few steps. So from the delivery van, bike or trolley into the hands of the recipient who's trying to get it. And that was our kind of driving insight that pushed us forward. So I'm from a design background, user experience design and service design, and we asked ourselves, how could a courier deliver more efficiently? What's the best solution for the building? And what's the best solution for the parcel recipient? And so as a designer, that really excited me because there are three key user types there. And in fact, I mean, this is overly simplified. So in reality, there are facility managers, but there's also the asset owners who have a slightly different perspective. There's the couriers that are on the ground, but there's also, you know, their managers and the courier companies. So there's a lot of different stakeholders that make it actually quite a complex scene for us to try to design a solution that made everyone happy. So we set about understanding them at first, and that included going on courier runs in their vans and speaking with lots of different facility managers and people that order things and really understanding where they were coming from. So the solution at the end of the day was an on-premises parcel locker system. And so it's in the building and it's just for the people in that building. And so I guess the obvious part that everyone sees of the solution is the locker hardware. we wanted to bring a really high-end aesthetic to the product. So we worked with a furniture designer to come up with something that we thought was really beautiful, very minimal, and it still had to be really durable as well. Because it's designed for simplicity, we wanted it to be modular, and so it works in a number of towers that can be reconfigured to suit any size of building. So it can go from a really simple system of about 11 doors up to hundreds of doors in a system, and really whatever's needed by that type of building. And we also wanted it to be able to work indoors or out. So we came up with a way for the whole system to be weatherproof. So it's got industrial touchscreens, really tough finishes, and special channels that run through the doors to guide water away from the contents should it rain. Sometimes the lockers get built in, but as you can see here, sometimes they sit freestanding as well. So we needed to make them be able to sit confidently on their own or be part of the fabric of the building as well. But I feel like the most important part of the system is really the software that powers it. So that software is on the touchscreen of the lockers, it's in the cloud, and it's on our courier-facing mobile app. User experience is really key to us, and we really focused on that a lot. And so one important decision we made, for example, is to not require the recipients to have an app on their product, on their phone to be able to use the product. So instead, we integrated with the leading facility and community management tools in each of the segments, so that managing parcels and receiving things is just part of the other amenities and other activities that they're doing in that building. I think the development of the product was a really exciting example of service design, because we jump between physical and digital steps and interchange between the two of them to solve the problem, like how do you get couriers to the right place in the building, and how do you give them access to secure buildings? And we were really fortunate to win a design award for the user experience of the software, and also be a finalist with the Urban Developers Best New Proptech. And so if hardware and software are the first two pillars of the product, then service is really the third. So that includes all the expertise to advise on flows through the building and the needs of Australia Post and courier companies that are visiting, change management around existing buildings and how to communicate effectively to people inside the building, and back towards the courier companies as well. And of course, customer support 7 days a week. So most people have seen parcel lockers before. It's not an unfamiliar concept, but we really pioneered this courier inclusive model, which means that any delivery person from any of the companies and any retailer can deliver into the lockers. So it means people can get a really wide range of deliveries, whether that's from a courier company or a local shop. And we also have the ability to tightly control this, so we can provide customized solutions to each customer as well. Now, that idea of creating a product that was available to all the courier companies was so central to the vision that it was actually the inspiration for our logo, incorporating the colours of all of Australia's major carriers. And so you can have a game afterwards figuring out which courier company aligns with what. It was designed in conjunction with those courier companies, and so we really wanted to ensure the solution solved problems for the buildings, but also the courier companies visiting them. And so, for example, the digital signature that we've included in the product replaces the need for a physical signature, whilst providing a much greater level of parcel tracking than the scribble of someone in your building who's received the parcel. So we track the history of the parcel so well that, in fact, Queensland Police are actually using it for managing evidence as well. So despite having a lot of smarts to it, the way it works for occupants is incredibly simple. So the courier comes and delivers into the electronic lockers using the touchscreen on the lockers or our mobile app. A code is sent to the recipient via SMS or email, and then the recipient can pick it up at their convenience. So it's stored securely until they're ready, and they come and pick it up either by typing in the code or simply scanning the QR code that we send them. It's an amenity that really has a lot of value to different parts of the value chain. Stephen kind of touched on that before when he was talking about kind of who pays in a building for these types of amenities. And fortunately, in a commercial building, for example, there's really value that gets delivered to every part of that chain. So for the recipients, we've obviously talked about the benefit to them, you know, the gift of time and reducing the friction in their life. To a building, the operators and the owners, there's lower costs of operation, there's less maintenance, and tenants increase productivity, they have better well-being as well. So there's a bunch of different benefits for people at different parts of that stack. In residential and student accom, we deliver a great amenity as well, but we also improve yields whilst being a central hub for the community. So we do a lot of individual residential and student accommodation buildings, but we're now involved in some really exciting precincts as well. So East Brunswick Village, for example, you can see here, they're combining apartments with a retail hub, restaurants, cafes, gym, pharmacies, etc. Banco Group are the developers of this project, and they really aim to provide a multitude of shared amenities, everything imaginable, even including an apiary, so people can have free honey from their rooftops. So all kinds of really great amenities. And we really feel like that represents the future of urban communities and you know, how people receive things and exchange things, and having that hub for the community is a part of that. And in retail, we see ourselves as part of that omni-channel solution. So as traditional retail look to stay relevant in today's online world. And I haven't talked a lot about retail today, but we're doing some really exciting things there. So if you'd like to know more about that, please get in touch. And we've seen over the last 6 months a real shift from being a great optional amenity to something that's really essential. And so we know buildings where facility management have had to stop taking deliveries at all for health and safety reasons or for high theft issues. And we've seen that really translate in terms of the number of inquiries and in fact, the urgency that the buildings are seeing. And so we've had some of our recent installs happen in a matter of weeks where people have inquired and ordered and it's been shipped interstate and installed and operating in just a few weeks. So yeah, it's really changed people's perceptions of the urgency of these types of products. And I think an exciting project along those lines is something we're doing with 101 Collins Street at the moment, where we've taken a health and safety approach and brought it in for that reason. But they've done it in a way which is actually a really high-end amenity and something that fits alongside the other lifestyle features of the building. So I believe I am running short on time, so I might end there and switch over to Adam, see if you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Chris. I do. I have plenty of questions, but I might just hold them for after when we do the Q&A. Just a reminder to everyone else that you can submit your questions through the Q&A function within Zoom. Also, I noticed that there are more and more people joining us as well as these presentations continue. For anyone that's just joined us, you will be able to receive a recorded version of this, just in case you missed any of those earlier presentations. And we will also be sharing with you the slides as well. Chris, thank you very much. Fascinating product. It's certainly a product of the time, but it's something that will continue to grow as well. And I've got lots of questions to send your way shortly. Up next, we're delighted to introduce Tim Geldard. He's the Director and Chief Design Specialist of Concept V. Now, a little bit about Concept V. They provide photorealistic digital tours to assist in the sales, marketing, and analytics stages when showcasing unbuilt property. With a web-based software, Concept V tools can be distributed on all marketing platforms. Now, I know for any development manager or anyone that's been involved in marketing of real estate projects, that alone is a lifesaver. Tim, how are you, mate? Where are you joining us from?
Adam, Thanks for having me on. I'm not doing too bad. I'm currently based in Brisbane at the moment. It's nice and chilly.
Excellent. Now, I'll jump out of my share screen and hand across to you to get started. Just as we do that as well, we'll continue to share our speakers' contact details through the Q&A function and the chat function in Zoom. So we encourage you to reach out to all of our presenters today, to connect on LinkedIn, to say good day and understand a bit more about what they do. Tim, you look good to go. I might hand over to you.
Excellent, fantastic. Thanks for having me on board, and everyone, thank you for tuning in to learn a bit more about what we do. So what I'll be doing today is I'll be going through a little bit about us, followed by the current state of the industry and how technology is being utilized, followed by what's the kind of technologies that's been popping up over the last few years to help through that marketing and sales process. After that, I'll be going through what the key limitations are of what there is available on the market, followed by our solution. So to start off, a little bit about us. There we go, presentation's working. So we originally started with a property economics background. Quite a few years ago when I was studying in uni, I saw that there was this really big gap during the communication stages for unbuilt property. Now, that goes through just about every stage of new property. That goes through architects, that's developers, that's town planners, then it goes through to the marketing stages, and especially during the sales process, right through to the end buyer, whether that's investors or owner-occupiers. So we originally started trying to work with virtual reality and desktop applications, but we moved into something that was a lot more accessible and easier to use. So just some things coming up on the screen, a little bit about our journey. Originally, it was just my partner and myself, up until we established our first prototype, got some investment and quite a lot of interest in the industry. So the key industries that we work with at the moment are for project home builders. Typically, project home builders might have anywhere between 30 and 80 home designs. Now, the key difficulty for these companies is trying to use floor plans to educate potential buyers to kind of move through that process. The second industry that we go with is apartment developers. This is particularly useful during this stage, especially with the amount of pre-commitment that's required to get funding for development, as well as the high rate of variation cost and the significantly delayed timelines that come up as a result. We also started working with master plan communities and large-scale property developments. Essentially, the same fundamental reasons is that it's like communication difficulty right from development through to that end sale. We started working with retail and commercial developers as well as industrial too, to help understand different warehouse functionalities, to understand how the flow of new developments is going to work, how retail spaces can actually be designed properly to serve their proper function. So what I'll be going through is the current tools that are available to the industry during that sales and marketing pipeline. After that, I'll be going through the growth of property technology in the industry, as well as some of the key limitations that are faced with that. After that, I'll be moving through our solution and how we have solved one of those key problems of communication. So the industry standard. Currently, there are about 3 key tools that are utilized during that sales process. Now we've got floor plans and images, which is just about everywhere. A lot of the time you'll add on to that fly-through videos as well, which does a really great job at showing off that it's a really nice place, but it really struggles to be able to properly communicate how something's going to look and feel. One of the key limitations of this is trying to go through that sales process based off a floor plan gets really complicated. Trying to communicate what a new home's going to look like, what a new development's going to look like to the end user is something that takes a large amount of education and accounts for a huge amount of that sales time. Following from that, the amount of engagement that you can actually get from a floor plan. I mean, I've been working in this industry for quite a long time, and even I struggle quite a lot to understand what's actually going on based on a floor plan. Now, people that are spending quite a lot of money on something that hasn't been built yet, having that lack of communication really creates quite a negative response into moving forward with that sale. The other very key selling tool is using displays and example suites. Now, there is nothing that is going to be better than being able to walk through what something is going to look like, to be able to understand, to touch and feel, and to be able to talk to someone to get information. Now, for a salesperson, that is by far the most effective way to convert a customer. Being able to walk through with them, being able to educate, being able to very easily show them everything is definitely something that really helps with that sales pipeline. Now, the third tool is essentially the salesperson themselves. Now, there's quite a lot of salespeople that are working in this industry, and honestly, the skills between them vary quite a lot. So you've got floor plans and a few rendered images. You've got display homes and display villages, and then the salesperson's actual skill. Some of the key limitations behind these are the engagement and the education that you get during those floor plan processes, as well as the very key limitations of display homes. I mean, in order to actually have those work properly, people need to be pre-engaged. There are so many display homes out there. There are so many companies advertising their display homes, and trying to get people to actually come out is most of the battle. The other part to that is a lot of businesses are working with cross-border migration, with investments, with international investment as well. And the recent COVID outbreak has been a perfect example of how this kind of tool can be really minimized. So as you can see on the screen here, the current tools that are available to actually market properties is pretty much the same. Now, what we're seeing at the moment are literally the very first 4 companies that came up on Google when I typed in project homes. This is across just about every project home, trying to illustrate the different designs using a single image followed by a floor plan and a bit of text. Is something that is not engaging, does not create a competitive advantage, and doesn't communicate or engage a buyer to actually make the decision to come out and see. So property technology and its growth. It's been quite an interesting field in the last few years. Some of the 2 key technologies that have come up are virtual reality, as well as in-house touchscreen displays. Both of these are fantastic during the sales process. They're highly engaging, they are fantastic at educating, and they provide a very significant point of difference. This, compared to floor plans, has a very obvious advantage. People can very easily understand what's going on. The salespeople can walk them through the process and properly connect with them. However, there are still quite a lot of downsides to using these. Primarily, there's a high upfront capital costs. There's quite a lot of its hardware that's required to actually run these. The training that's required to run these platforms is also quite a lot. Which is a very key difficulty in introducing new technology into a lot of industries, is that training and monitoring cycle. The other key difficulty here is lack of distribution. There are the same issues that are faced with display homes and display suites. People need to be pre-engaged. People need to be within the local area. People need to take time off work. People need to spend time on their weekends to come out and to view these things. There's nothing that they can take home, which means that momentum for that sale decreases as soon as they leave the office. The other really interesting thing that's popped up over the last few years are 360 photo tours, which has largely been used in the real estate industry. The last 5 years really has seen this technology really explode. This has been really interesting because there's quite a lot of data on how it's actually being received. To give you a bit of an idea, on average, real estate listings that have 5 images versus listings that have a 360 tour, there's about 400% greater lead generation. There's 80% more phone calls, 40% more emails. It gives people something that they can interact with, understand, connect to, and make the decision to come out and view a property. However, again, there are obvious downsides in that the building needs to be completed. A lot of the time with project home companies that have started to utilize this technology, they're building houses and clients are requesting that the house be turned over straight away, so they don't have the time to jump in and do it. At the same time, there's a lack of furnishings in this place, and it can only be what's built, which means that if you provide different options or different selections, there is nothing that you can use to communicate those. The other thing with 360 photo tours, which is really interesting, has been the response from COVID. Just about every developer that I've talked to, every project home builder that I've talked to, within the first 2 weeks of the larger shutdowns from COVID, within that first 2 weeks, everyone was getting 360 photo tours. Now, I haven't spoken to a builder or a developer since that hasn't had a positive response from these. Now, our solution. Originally, we started with VR technology and desktop applications, but we found that there was a lot of issues with it. The key thing that we wanted to work on was accessibility. So accessibility, we designed a web-based solution. Now, what that means is with our technology, it can be accessed at any time on any device from anywhere in the world. If you have a device that's connected to the internet, it can run it. You don't have to download anything. You don't have to set up anything. You click one button and you're straight into it. We also wanted to branch that a bit further in terms of usability. There's a lot of different people that are buying properties, obviously, and a lot of different kinds of people that are selling properties. So one of the key things that we originally ran into was ease of use. So we designed it to be extremely easy. We kind of went with a Google Street View type process where it's a very simple, quick and move through. Don't worry, I'll be showing you through it a bit later. But essentially, we designed it so that if you know how to use a phone, then you know how to use one of our tours. The other key benefit to doing this is the ability to distribute. Now, that is a very, very key point, because the ability to distribute means that this can be implemented into every stage of the development pipeline. From the initial development and design of a new building, we can create our tools to allow every interested party to take whatever time they want to be able to easily go through each of these tours and understand what that new design is going to look like. Now, there is a huge amount of variation costs happening in the industry. It's delaying time, it's adding a lot to the budget, but being able to distribute a tool that enables people to properly go through and understand everything that's going on, enables people to pick up potential issues that might be popping up, which would contribute to that variation cost. During the marketing stages, one of the key problems with the current technology that's on the market is it requires people to be pre-engaged. So if you have a technology that can be distributed throughout the entire marketing process, then you're pre-engaging people with that technology. If you're able to send this out to people through social media, through websites, through newsletters, even through print advertising, you're giving people something to properly engage with. So being able to distribute this kind of technology across any different platform enables people to become engaged. It enables them to interact with it in their own time. It enables them to understand it to a point where they can commit to actually making the inquiry. Now, that's a very important point, because what that means is the people that are coming in to discuss with someone are pre-educated and pre-qualified. The amount of time it takes to run through the initial part of the sales process of educating people on what this is or what that is significantly reduced, because one, they've already looked at it, and two, they have that tool right there with them. The second part to that is pre-qualifying. I don't know how many salespeople are listening, but any salesperson can tell you that it is quite frustrating trying to sift through all of the people that really aren't going to do anything. Now, if you're going through something that you understand and you're actually making the effort to go forward to an inquiry, then it means that you're qualifying yourself as you go through that process. So I'm going to jump over to a quick demonstration of one of our tours. Just bear with me for a second. Here we go. So this is a website. So you can send this in an email, you can click on it, you can get to it from anywhere. So we built this based off the floor plans. Now that's a key part about what we do is we don't require anything in particular. We've got architects on board, we've got draft people on board. So we read off building plans as they're presented to us, as well as inclusion schedules, anything that would go out in marketing. And we create this for them. This is a one-to-one scale, exact replica of what this house is going to look like. Yeah. So it's very easy to just move around.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Tim. I'll just jump in. I've got a feeling we're not seeing the same screen. So I'll just double check. At the moment we're seeing Navi by Concept V, which I believe is your slides. So just
I am going to, all right. Thank you for the interruption there.
It's okay.
How's this?
That works.
Excellent. Okay. Well, so what you are seeing was not what we built. But what you are seeing is what we build. So again, this is just based off that floor plan. Any information that is being developed during that development cycle anyway, that's all we need. So we're able to just click through these different points very, very easily. It's just a click and move system. So we can go around and see all these different areas. Now, this is based on real world lighting. So this is an accurate representation of how light the scene will be. And one of the key things that we wanted to build into this system was the ability to switch out different color schemes to enable people to very easily understand where they are and what they're looking at. So this particular tour provides 2 alternate color schemes, which is very typical in any apartments that are being sold. So we click one button and everything changes over. Everything that is going into this inclusions is modeled exactly. That goes down to the brand of the appliances, that goes down to the very specific materials that are being used. Everything gets programmed in exactly as it is. So we can very easily just click around to change through these different color schemes. But we also wanted to make it very easy for people to understand where they are. So we built in an interactive floor plan so you can see where we are, where we're looking. And we can just click on these points to move around to different areas. Now, this is extremely helpful if you're running through with a client, trying to help them understand exactly what's going on. So again, we can just click on these points to move around and go through that process. So I'm going to go back to the presentation now, and hopefully it will be the correct screen. So we wanted to build it a bit further, and you guys are very lucky because you're getting the very first glimpse of a new technology that we've been building. We wanted to make it a lot easier to be able to view multiple different tours at the same time and to go through and quite easily assess exactly what's on offer. So again, I'll just move back over to a different screen. And so this is the early stage prototype. We're launching into full release in about 3 to 4 weeks from now. So we've got a development here that is being built in this specific location. So one of the key selling points of a lot of new developments is obviously the location, its proximity to schools, hospitals, transport nodes, everything like that. So we can program in and showcase exactly what's going on in that regard. We wanted to make it easy for people to see the development as a whole. So we built this in as well. Now, this is just a website again, which means you can access it from literally any device at any time. So from here, we can go around and see these different points. This is entirely interactive. And we can click on all of these different options to get information about each of these different places. So different apartment types we can click on. We can get an idea of the floor plan here to get a very quick summary of, is this something that I'm interested in looking through further, which is one of the very key points of that sales process, is going through multiple different floor plans to understand what people want to learn more about. So we can program in anything that a company is interested in using for marketing and have this distributed as well as used through the sales process. Now, we also built in a search criteria option. People typically know roughly what they want, but none of the specifics. So if we put in the amount of bedrooms or bathrooms we want, you can display what of the apartments or what of the homes or what of the areas that fit within those different brackets. Now that's incredibly helpful for the sales process. Typically the way that the sales process ordinarily starts is going through a bit of a conversation about what people are looking through and then providing them with a bunch of different floor plans till they get down to about 3 typically. And from there, it's going into a fair bit more detail about each of those different areas. So I'm going to go back to the slide now because I'm aware that we are running a bit short on time. So I have run through a large amount of how this is used during the sale, but I will just touch quickly on these points. So giving people something that is interactive means there is a high level of engagement. Giving people something that enables them to see everything that's going on, to see what the available color schemes are, to see what the different appliances are, creates a significantly high level of trust. And that trust is a very important thing. Being able to provide something that is accessible from anywhere means that you can meet people anywhere. You don't need to be locked into a specific office. You can provide them with these tours so that they don't have to take time out of work to come and see you. Following the sales meeting, you can provide them with something to keep that motivation going. Now, that's a very key thing because people want to spend more time assessing on their own time and by talking to their friends and family about the particular purchase that they're thinking about making. The other key point of this is what we're doing right now. Right now, I'm communicating to a couple hundred people and showing through different points of these products. So working with cross-border migration and investments, that pre-education stage before people fly up and actually check something out, this is a very critical point. Otherwise, you're sending out floor plans and a couple of images, and it's not something that provides people enough information to want to make the decision to visit a display. Now, that's exactly where this fits in. So during the marketing stage, distribution, being able to provide this through distribution is incredibly important. I've gone through that it can be distributed on all different platforms, but one of the key points that we built in, I'm just going to skip through because I am aware of time, is the real-time insights. So we have created an online portal to enable our clients to see every piece of analytic data that is tracked in our tours. Now that is an extremely powerful tool. So I'm going to very quickly bring that up on the screen. If I can move Zoom out of the way. There we are. So this is an example of one of the real-time data centers that we have. So from here, I can see where everyone is that is using these tours. I know what the age distribution is. I know what different interests they have. I can go through multiple different pages and see a whole bunch of information. So I can see how many sessions there are, what the average use time is, which on average is about 4.5 minutes. All of this data is in real time and can be totally customizable. So if there's anything in particular that our clients would like to know, then we can program that in and enable them to see that at any time that they want. So that is an incredibly powerful thing, especially during that marketing stage, because you can actually see which of the marketing strategies are more effective than others. You can track what different platforms are more successful than others. Now, because we've built in an inquiry system into our tours, we can actually track the conversion rate of people moving from checking out the tour to actually going through to make an inquiry. So what that means is you can actually analyze how well your marketing strategy is actually going, which is an incredibly important thing to be able to understand how your entire sales and marketing process is actually moving. So at that point, I believe I am just about out of time. So Mark, if there are any questions.
We do actually have some questions that have come in, but again, like all the other ones, I'll hold them and we'll bring them all together for the final Q&A after the presentations.
Yep.
Thank you very much, Tim. That's fascinating stuff, and I know having a project myself, a lot of those tools become very powerful, particularly the analytics stuff. So look forward to jumping into those questions. Just a reminder, you can submit your questions through the Q&A function down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. We're jumping over to the next session. Tim, if I could get you to jump out of your share screen, please, and I'll then make the introduction for our next presenter.
Yep, absolutely. All right. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to listen through to this. And Mark, thank you for the introduction.
Not a problem. Now, jumping across to our next presenter, we have Nick Opasinis. He's the Business Development Manager at PayApps. Now, let me introduce PayApps for you. PayApps bridges the gap between multiple organisations and stakeholders by providing an easy-to-use, real-time status of progress claims. Developed specifically for the construction industry, it allows everyone to collaborate on a single platform, eliminating the need for endless spreadsheet reconciliations, email trails, and phone calls. I think any construction and development manager probably knows the pain of all of that very, very well. Nick, welcome. Where do you join us from today, mate?
Thanks, Adam. I'm from the lovely lockdown city of Melbourne.
Melbourne, how are you faring?
Yeah, okay. I mean, look, it is what it is. We'll eventually get through it. We've just got to do the right thing by everyone around us, mate.
That's right. That's right. It almost feels like Groundhog Day a little bit. Some of my friends in Victoria are telling me. But look, we're going to get straight into it. Nick, I will stop sharing my screen and jump across to you and let you start driving. Again, just one more reminder as well to all of the people that are joining us for these sessions. You will receive these sessions recorded. You will also receive the presentation slides, and you're more than welcome to submit your questions through the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. Nick, over to you.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you for the introduction, and thank you to all the panelists that have presented so far. Some really interesting stuff there, and probably more importantly also thank you to the attendees for making the time to attend today. So Adam, as you've alluded to, PayApps is our cloud collaboration platform, which really focuses on that niche within that end-to-end building and development process, which is the progress claims and payment application process. So PayApps was born out of a need from both the builders and also the subcontractors that they've got engaging them for on their projects around transparency and consistency and regularity across the board as part of that full end-to-end cycle. A lot of the feedback that we get from the builders is, they were spending hours upon hours at the end of the month, their CAs, their project managers, their accounts team, their finance team, spending hours trying to make sense of all these claims that were coming in from subcontractors in different formats, incorrect calculations, all that sort of stuff, which left them tearing their hair out at the end of the month, and not being able to have that transparency, visibility, and consistency across the board. But if we look at it on the other side, from a subcontractor perspective, the frustrations there around not having their claims approved in a timely manner, which will then affect their payments, which then will affect cash flow from a business point of view. So that's where really the core of PayApps from a solution point of view was born, was creating that consistency, creating that one singular platform and one singular source of truth that subcontractors can submit their claims in the same portal, in the same solution that the builders are approving their claims. So that's a little bit of background about where PayApps was and how it's come about, and I'll as part of my presentation today, there's essentially a few key things that I'm going to focus on, and a few of these key things are centered around current industry challenges with regards to the progress claims payment application process, and how Tech Adoption is also assisting in overcoming some of these challenges. And what we're going to do is, as I've sort of touched on already, is look at both ends of the spectrum. We're going to look at life not only on the builder side, head contractor side, and also in the subcontractor side, and how technology solutions such as PayApps are playing an important role in bridging that gap and improving transparency and that relationship. So just to flick over here, this might be a familiar scene for some of you. Let's just say unorganized chaos. So spreadsheets everywhere, paperwork everywhere, claims left on the desk in a non-organized format, boxes upon boxes of claims and invoices and manual spreadsheets and paperwork all just piling up within an office. So this is what life is like and was like for a lot of our clients and customers, and probably unfortunately still what life is like for a lot of businesses out there. And that necessarily is not just at the smaller end of the market with your tier 2, tier 3 boutique sort of developers and builders, but right at the top end of the market with some of the tier 1 builders. So this is a bit of a snapshot of what life is like before PayApps, and then what life is like after PayApps. As you can see, simple, transparency, efficiency, increasing in productivity, more importantly, that relationship where you've got both parties or multiple parties singing from the same hymn book. So let's talk a little bit about the current state of the industry. So, you know, we're probably not reinventing the wheel with some of these statements here. So as we know, the building construction industry is still quite predominantly a paper-based industry. You know, quite time-intensive, heavy manual processes, arduous manual processes, which are having a significant effect on productivity and efficiency. And one thing that's been there and is probably becoming more prevalent as time goes by is margins are becoming tighter and tighter. Efficiency gains are only really incremental still, and there is still that reluctance to adopt technology now. In the past 12 months, I have started to see a little bit more of an open-mindedness within the industry in certain areas around adoption of technology, but we still, to a certain degree, within a draconian industry that is still heavily focused on utilizing processes and systems and solutions which we've used for 10, 20 years. And tech adoption has been one of those areas which has sort of been a little bit of it's a nice to have, but we're sort of scared and we don't want to adopt it at this point. So, like I said, pretty simple facts here that we've come across, and I'm sure potentially a number of the panelists that we've got on the webinar today and the attendees have come across also. So with this particular slide here, what we're looking at is late payments and poor compliance. It is bad for everyone. It's bad practice at both ends of the spectrum, whether it be as the builder or as a subcontractor. If we look on the builder side, you know, the key things to have a look at here is, you know, chasing of documentation, inconsistent documentation, and probably most importantly out of that from a builder's point of view is SOPA compliance. So, you know, in conversations that we've had with customers previously and what we're inevitably finding is the constant chase from their ends around documentation from their subcontractors that they're engaging for their projects. So, you know, documentation such as work cover certificates, public liability insurance, but even just getting them to send through their progress claims before the deadline and the due dates is a massive time-consuming task, which, you know, what we've sort of outlined already is keeping a lot of contract administrators, project managers up at night. And with that, that's leading into inconsistent documentation. So as we've sort of touched on already, you know, receiving progress claims and payment applications in a multitude of different formats, whether that be, you know, an Excel spreadsheet, or, you know, one of our customers actually told me that they used to receive a subcontractor's progress claims via a text message every month. So, so that lack of congruency and that lack of consistency, again, is something which is keeping people within building companies up at night. And probably the one that's keeping them most up at night is the SOPA compliance. So, you know, by not having clearly defined, efficient processes, not being able to meet their deadline from a SOPA compliance point of view. And on the subcontractor side, you know, late payment and poor compliance is having a significant impact on them, whether it be from a cash flow perspective. And we touched on that earlier around, you know, not being able to have their claims that they're making being assessed and approved in a timely manner, which is then leading them for the issues from a business point of view in terms of being unable to forecast accurately. And again, the time spent on paperwork is also proving to be a bit of an issue for them, because, you know, they're submitting their claims in there and their claims might be incorrect for whatever reason. They've miscalculated the retention that they've had to factor into their claim, or one of their claims is inaccurate. They're having to go back and redo that and spend time doing that again, and then having to resubmit their claim. So there's late payment and poor compliance is bad for everyone on both ends of the spectrum. With PayApps, it is truly part of an ecosystem of systems and processes within that building and construction phase. So some of the things that we've touched on, and I'm not going to go into too much depth with this particular slide. So, you know, things that we've outlined already: visibility and transparency, compliance of documentation, fully mobile, which is an important aspect in today's environment. So, you know, both builders and contractors having the ability to be able to do real-time submission of claims on site, and then also real-time assessment and approvals from site, instead of having to wait to go back to the office or back home in front of a PC or a computer. Tracking retention, which is important, and something which we're noticing is becoming a key component as part of that ecosystem of solutions within an organisation, is financial system integration. So having the ability of a new solution that you're bringing in, especially from a progress claim and payment application point of view, to be able to integrate with an existing finance solution that you might have, and whether that be, you know, a Xero or a MyOb or a QuickBooks, or even at the bigger end of the market with an ERP system like JobPack or Cheops or Vista. So a real end-to-end full ecosystem of processes and solutions. Adoption. So this is one of the key things that we constantly have as a discussion point when we're talking with clients and customers and potential prospects around PayApps. So currently, as it stands, the building industry is central to our economy, contributing 13% of GDP and employing well and truly over 1.4 million Australians. But unlike a lot of other sectors, it has really struggled to modernise and is essentially challenged a lot by rising costs and stagnated productivity and high waste, and, as we've mentioned already, tight and low margins. And one of the things, the myths that I want to debunk, and one of the common bits of feedback that we get from people that we speak to is, well, you know, if we adopt tech and we bring tech into our business, it's going to make my role, you know, defunct. It's going to having to mean that we're going to make people redundant in their roles. Well, it's quite the opposite. You know, we're not here to automate people out of jobs, and a lot of that's probably the basis of a lot of the tech within our industry and other industries, is we're actually here to enhance human potential. So by bringing in a solution like PayApps, what it's going to allow is those CAs and project managers that you're you know, spending an exorbitant amount of time having to spend hours upon hours reconciling claims and you know, utilising inefficient processes, it's going to actually allow them to free up time within their day-to-day operations to be more effective, which in turn will add to the bottom line of a business and improve those margins and make those outcomes a little bit more positive for a builder. So I really wanted to debunk that myth, Adam, because tech is not here to get rid of people. It's here to actually make processes a lot more efficient. We've got a case study here, and Adam and the team will make this available to you attendees on the webinar today around one of our key clients, Parkview, who have really encapsulated what I've just outlined there. Is, you know, what used to take hours upon hours for their contract administrators and their project managers, you know, is now only taking them 5 or 10 minutes to be able to reconcile these claims and approve these claims as they're coming in. And they've seen an amazing return on investment, and the guys in the field love it. So if you want access to that video case study, Adam and the team will be able to distribute that out to you. Points that we've already outlined. So from a subcontractor point of view, they're even still predominantly paper-based, time-intensive processes, tighter margins also from their end. You know, they're wanting to try and win work on key projects, and they're having to reduce their margins in order to win those projects. Efficiency gains are incremental, and you know, they've also heard about the ongoing promise about digital transformation within the building and construction industry. What we have seen across our solution over the last 12 to 18 months is steady growth around subby adoption. So this graph really here articulates month on month over a 12-year period how the claims have significantly increased from subbies over that period of time. So it's actually showing that subcontractors are open to utilizing tech, and the new generation of subcontractors coming into the building and construction industry are very much familiar with tech and smartphones and things like that. So what you can actually find is that change management process is, especially from a builder point of view, is a lot easier than what you might think around getting your subbies or your contractors to adopt tech as part of that collaboration process. And what we're also seeing here in this particular graph is approved claims steadily increasing, which again, what we've already touched on already is that reducing that time from submission to approval, which is not only going to make things easier from a subcontractor point of view around cash flow prediction and forecasting for their business, but also from a builder around being able to manage these processes and manage these potential difficult conversations that they need to have with their subcontractors at various times. And we've also got a case study which we provided with one of our subcontractor, City Circle, that's involved in a number of big projects with a number of tier 1 and tier 2 builders. And again, you know, Jesse who's their commercial manager, has outlined a number of the key benefits in the video testimonial. And again, Adam and the team will be able to provide the link for that if you attendees would like to have a look at that in more in depth. So look, in summary, as we know, margins are getting tighter. Every advantage counts at this point, and that's specifically not only on the subcontractor side, but also more importantly on the builder side. Any sort of process efficiency or product efficiency gains that you can find within your business are inevitably going to help the business from an ROI point of view, and also from a project delivery and bottom line point of view. We've seen real efficiency gains, and the case studies that we've put forward and that you'll be able to see clearly outline that. And you know, we've got a track record of success with our clients being able to, in a lot of cases, you know, increase or halve their productivity by 50%. So halve their productivity. Sorry, let me get that right. Let me start again, Adam. Increase their productivity by 50%. And decrease those product inefficiencies and process inefficiencies that they're finding within their organisations. And one of the key points that I want to outline here is, and I've harped on it a little bit in this particular presentation, is the digital transformation benefits are real. As an industry, we have to become more open-minded from a digital adoption and transformation point of view in order to progress the business forward. And that's something which is becoming, I think, and it's good to see, more and more of a discussion point and an open-mindedness approach from businesses around adopting tech and solutions like pay apps. And the most important thing is to also get the paperwork out of the way, you know, so they can essentially spend more time doing what they love. And that's especially for, you know, contract administrators, commercial managers, directors and project managers that are working on the project. Less time being bogged down with the arduous manual processes around reconciliation and trying to process these claims in a timely manner so that they're fulfilling SOPA compliances or relevant regulatory compliances, and actually switching their focus to being heavily involved and hands-on in project development, and potentially other important aspects in the business from an operational point of view. And with that, Adam, I think that's it, a wrap. Hopefully I didn't go too far over. So open to questions, mate.
Yes, thank you very much, Nick. No, right on time. Thank you for that. We do have some more questions, but as I said, I'll hold them until we bring the whole thing together at the end. Now, to bring us home now is Andrew Yazbek. He is joining us from Comnia. Now, I'll just jump across with my slides. He's the business development manager there at Comnia. For those that don't and aren't familiar with Comnia, they're an Australian project collaboration platform that specialises in end-to-end project management, communication and document control for construction projects and organisations of all sizes. I think similar to Nick's presentation, if anyone's been very much in the heart of a project, they know that the collaboration, communication and document control can be an absolute nightmare. So Comnia solves that problem. Andrew, thank you for joining us this morning. Where are you joining us from? I think it seems pretty obvious by the background that you've got there.
Yeah, I'm in the rocks in Sydney, and I thought that was a good image to display where our home base is.
Fantastic. Now, just before we kick off, Comnia, what's with the name?
Okay, so com for communication, and Nia actually translates in various languages to resolve with purpose and brilliance. And it pretty much speaks for what we actually do.
Fantastic. Well, over to you.
Fantastic. Okay, well, thanks again for the invite, and thanks to the developer for taking the initiative for such a forum this morning. The speakers in front were fantastic. Some of that information was, really interesting and a lot to take in. So to the audience, I'm not going to take up a huge amount of your time. I'll try and make it as interesting as possible, but thanks again for your time. So as my name's Andrew Yazbek, and I'm the BDM and a partner at Comnia. I wanted to start this morning with a memory from my first week at the University of New South Wales studying construction management back in the early 90s. And some of you who may be as old as I am might remember a really popular lecturer, Clyde Smythe, in Construction Management 1. On the first day, he's got a whole lot of eager students in there, and he pulls up a number of slides with a whole lot of problematic issues. And, you've got leaks, you've got structural failures, you've got site defects, you've got site safety issues. And he asks this really important question. And he says, what's the common theme? What's the common theme in all these photos? And all these kids are trying to work out what the theme is. And it's really, really quite difficult. And the answer was poor communication. It was all about poor communication. And today, 30 years on, communication is still at the heart of most of the issues that are experienced, or the negative issues that are experienced in a property, in a project, whether it be residential, commercial, educational, utility. It's communication. So we try and solve that problem through Comnia. So Comnia is an Australian project management collaboration and communication platform, and it manages the end-to-end process of all the facets of a project from a project management point of view. We promote efficiency, transparency, accountability, again, through the entire cycle for all the stakeholders. Today, I'm hoping that after I explain some of the benefits that our current clients experience, that it may spark interest to other members of our industry in Australia to at least, explore the option of what we can do and whether it would be able to be of benefit to your next project. I'll explain a little bit about how we came about, who uses the platform, and some of the cost benefits and licensing opportunities that you'll have. So the power of Comnia. You can see from the slide that we are end-to-end. So it's all the way, it's whether you're an institution or a government body or a private developer or a builder, from the very beginning, from concept all the way to asset ownership. So how we started, so around 20 odd years ago, I was working for a tier 1 Firstly, I come from a long line of builders and developers, but 20 years ago, I was working for a major tier 1 builder in Sydney, and we used to take days, like 12, it was on average around 12 days to send documents out during the tender process. It was very slow and tedious, and we had teams of people to be able to do that. The time that it would take was eating into the time that you had to prepare a tender and be cost competitive. Now, and it was a recession at the time, so everyone was hungry for the same project. So the company I was working for was smart enough to call in our founder, Gina, who basically is a programmer, a database programmer, and they called her and said, is there a way you can streamline this process for us? So she, quite dynamic, she puts this program together, comes back to see us, and she reduces the time from 12 days to 3 days, which meant we had a whole lot more time to prepare our tender and become more cost competitive and improve our chances of winning a tender. At Comnia today, we now do that process in 3 minutes. So with the advent of the internet and technology and streamlining the process, we've eliminated that whole 12 days to minutes. So our focus still remains on efficiency, and it's an end-to-end platform, as I keep mentioning, except we have a communication engine that it all surrounds, and that communication is like there's no one has any form of communication engine like this in our industry. It's not a traditional inbox like Outlook or Gmail. It is a centralized hub, and I'll go into that a little bit further. So who uses our platform? Past and present clients include, the government sector, institutions, project managers, developers, developer builders, consultants, contractors, subbies, and suppliers. There are hundreds of thousands of people logging onto our platform every day. Why they use us? Why do our customers? And some of our customers have been with us for nearly 20 years. Firstly, coming from the industry and being whipped by our clients over that time, we understand that the sector has to deliver to time, cost, and quality restraints. We know that we have to provide a platform that minimizes any opportunity for dispute or litigation. This whole industry is litigious. We have to provide assurance that any information or any correspondence during the project and well after the project, when it's needed, that it can be easily retrieved. You don't need someone going through files and tons of folders to try and work out who said what and when. And of course, we need transparency and accountability. So we take all of those things, and our focus or our mission is to always make our software easy to use. It has to save time. It has to be rich in technology and features. It has to guarantee reliability. It has to be secure. It needs to be a neutral platform for all users so that anybody can get their data at any time. It needs local support and a local development team so that when someone rings, they understand the terminology of who's on the other end. The return on investment has to be great. And one of the most fantastic things about our product is it's designed and developed and supported in Australia, and we're incredibly competitive. Some of the benefits that you might want to consider that might assist in projects in the future. We have, as I mentioned, a unique communication system, and it's surrounded by what we call the Comnia inbox, if you can see that slide. So all information that's generated on a project comes from the system. It goes out and it's delivered via a normal email platform, whether it be Outlook or Gmail or Apple Mail, and allows users to retrieve any correspondence or any drawing or any document that comes from within that project. What's fantastic about our inbox is that it works in the reverse as well. So users who are not on the system, who are applying to correspondence, don't have to log in. And that's been a big gripe of many subcontractors and suppliers. They hate logging in because there are so many different things they need to log into securely these days. So for us, It's easy. They just log in, they just reply to an email, and it's smart enough in our inbox to work out which project it came from, which folder it needs to be delivered to, and who needs to be notified. The other thing that's really important, and I think it came through with Concept V, visualization and graphics is really important in our industry. We communicate visually with drawings and images. So our inbox is that. It allows for drawings and photos and emails and videos and slides all to be communicated within an email or within our inbox, and then can get distributed. We capture signatures. So for security in terms of getting an authority to let or an approval, we don't have to then go sign on an Adobe application and bring it back. It's secure and done within our system on its own. We provide a tendering, our system starts from design to tendering and all the way through to defects. And if asset management is your thing, it goes into that as well. It is all encompassing, but we don't restrict you. You don't have to use our system for the whole process. Sorry. One of the most, I touched on historical data and its importance. So again, the benefit, we at Comnia have www everywhere, and it doesn't stand for World Wide Web. What it stands for is who, when, and why. And it's really important in terms of mitigating risk. Who said what, when they said it, and why they did it, so that you don't get blamed for it. And that's paramount in our game. So you imagine something like Mascot Towers. Who said it, why they said it, and why, and when they said it. So that, and it should be easily traced. You want to be able to get onto the system, search out, why there was a column moved, or why something was eliminated, or who signed something off. And you want to be able to do that because someone's coming after you, and you want to be able to do that quickly and save time. Our system is, it's multi-device accessible. So we're not an app. We're not just an app. We're a powerful platform. So our desktop is the key to our system. It's not just about, an email system. It's pleasing to the eye, it's easy to use, and it makes people have buy-in. It allows for buy-in. Without buy-in on a centralized communication system, you're not capturing all the information. So that's really important. Although we have apps and mobile devices, they're just as powerful, but they're utilized by different people. So the desktop might be used by the design team or the project manager or the contract admin guys, and the apps and the mobile devices are used on site for getting things done and making things simple on site. And importantly, they work on and offline. So if you're in the basement, the thing will still work, which is important. In today's day and age, things to look for are, where is your data held? In today's time, security and data privacy is sensitive. You don't want to be holding up or providing a document system where the documents for the Defense Department are being held in China somewhere, particularly today. Data ownership and retrieval now and well into the future is important. So they're things you want to be looking for. I touched on support and development. And again, one of the most important things for us is that we provide 24/7 support locally in Australia, 365 days a year, so that when the guy gets on the phone and he says, mate, this ain't working so well, that someone understands that when they're on our end of the phone. We need rapid turnaround times for support. Our industry doesn't wait for people. It doesn't wait 6 days for you to come back and say, I can't send this thing, it's not working. It needs to be supported on the spot. And the advantage we have is our development team is local, where they're not in other countries, they're here. So if something goes wrong, we're onto it. Really important. Australian industry and know-how, again, I've touched on that. Terminology, methodology, we know how you build. So it's built into our system. And in terms of compliance, the security of payments that Nick was talking about, or the new residential compliance enforcement bill of 2020, we're not global in terms of, and we're not dictated by, you know, that our system has to comply with every other country in the world. We comply for you here. So we tailor our software for the Australian industry. The KISS principle. Construction is not simple, and the applications that we use need to be simple. That's a challenge. So we have a motto that it has to pass the 2 minutes test. Every time someone comes to us and says, oh, can you change this or do that? When we're developing, 2 minutes is the test. If it takes longer than 2 minutes to do something, we're failing, and we have to go back and do it again and again and again. And even when we do that, I'm sure we get the feedback from our focus groups and our hundreds of customers that come back to us and say, hey, this ain't working so well. The guy on site's not able to download the 5,000 drawings we just sent him because his phone can't cope. One of the biggest complaints we ever had was all the systems that were out there. And again, we talked about the login. So that's paramount. We're the only system where somebody can reply to correspondence without logging in. Really important for subcontractors and suppliers who are tendering on projects or needing documentation quickly. Finally, our cost and our licensing. We offer many licensing models. So we have a pre-construction model for our developers and project managers, which is cost effective. It can be user-based or project-based. We have a project license and an enterprise license. One of the champion things about our product, again, is the fantastic Australian team we have. We employ locally. All our talent is local. And what we're so proud of is that over the 20 years, we've developed class-leading features and tools, and we're always the most competitive in the market, every single time. I thought, just to wrap it up, I just thought some of our cool features or features that people do love about our software, rather than get into features, I just thought I'd explain it a little bit in terms of things that we do offer. So again, we talk about our inbox, and the key to the inbox is that every part of every feature that we have runs through the inbox and then out. So keys, Comnia Drive. It's a simple document sharing tool. So we don't hold you to regimented document distribution. We offer you both, and you'll see that in a second. So simple document sharing is, it might be company documentation. It might be standard forms, inspection test plans, your integrated management system. It can be files, it can be bulk drawings, it could be workshop drawings, and it could be as-builts. When you're sort of working on a larger project, so say our hospital builders and document control or office buildings, it's absolutely paramount with thousands of documents. Our document register is really regimented. It's been developed over 20 years. We don't just hold drawings. We hold CAD files, we hold media files, we hold specs, bill of quantities, any form of file. A zip file can be held in our system. When it goes in and the next revision control or the next revision of that document is inserted, our system's smart enough to say, hey, we've seen this document before. It went out to Joe and John, and it will notify Joe and John that there is a new file and they need to see it. It will distribute it in minutes. Transmittals and tenders. Once the documents are in our system, it takes less than 3 clicks. We talk about clicks. We're constantly harping in the office to our programmers. If it's taking more than 3 clicks, it's a waste of time. Make it simple, keep it clean. No one wants to be doing this. It's not someone's main drive to make sure document control is, what they want to do for the rest of their life. With that, I should say, one of our key customers over the last 8 years has done over $12 billion worth of projects, over 16,000 apartments, and the most phenomenal stat with 1 document controller in that time. That's the type of the return on investment that you get with this product. We have an amazing defect app. It links to the system and it takes photographs and produces reports. It has a communication trail of who said what and when. And it's not just for the builder. The project manager or the architect or the client is also accessible, has access to the system. So they are able to click and notify someone of a defect that someone may not have. Coming shortly is an ability for our end users, so the users of apartments or the life cycle of a building, if given the option, will be able to access the app and notify when defects and things are occurring on the site. And then it can be determined whether, is it something that is the builder's fault, the architect's design flaw, not that they ever design anything wrong, or who's responsible, or if it's not a defect at all. We do site diaries which logs people's times. It does weather, it does labour, and it can be used as complex as you'd like it, or it can be as simple as just monitoring people on site. One of the most favoured other features we have is our meeting minutes module. Again, it complies with our standards, the way we take minutes and handle minutes here. But what's unique about it is it's visual again. In any meeting minute, you can see that you can add drawings, you can mark up, you can add photos, you can add video to a meeting minute, and then it can be distributed to attendees within the meeting and people outside the meeting. And it links to a task system, so people know what they have to do and when for the next meeting. Finally, our project access, really, really important, that particularly with compliance issues, that all stakeholders get access to the project. The project's come and gone. It's 5 years down the track. There's cracks appearing in the building. Someone needs to know the who, when, and why again. Our customers, whether you're a subscriber or not, after 10 years, you've still got access to the system. Finally, the Comnia difference. I think I've explained, we're easy to use, we're efficient, we're secure. As you can see, we're Australian made and owned, and we're so proud again that we're class leading in what we do. And I hope at the end of this presentation that you'll have a think about us and might plant the seed to give us an opportunity to do something for you in the future. Thank you. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Really appreciate that presentation, and we look forward to some questions. If I could get you to just jump out of that share screen, and we'll jump into discussion mode. We've got about 15 minutes to unpack a few of the areas. Now, I know Nick, Tim, Stephen, that you're there. If I could get you to jump off mute and join us again on screen. Now, look, I think the first thing I'd like to do is just start with a bit of an assessment and a bit of an opinion on just the current situation and how it's really changed business. I mean, COVID's no business, no person is unaffected by it. Chris, I might just start with you. How has the current situation impacted your business, and what have you done to respond?
Sure. So I guess there's a number of different things. Certainly we've seen a massive increase in inquiries. I guess the most relevant thing is that there have been some workplace health and safety laws that have changed, and WorkSafe Australia have actually put out some guidelines around how to make workplaces safe. And that includes things like not requiring physical signatures, removing unnecessary people out of the building, cutting down the number of people that are dealing with things like deliveries. So we've really seen a mandate really from Safe Work Australia to put in solutions like this. And I think through this period, people have really embraced e-commerce like never before. The statistics are just astronomical at the moment. And so as workplaces want to entice people back to the office as well, I think the ability to help them receive their deliveries will be a really key one.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tim, from your perspective, I mean, marketers obviously constrained by the ability to sort of connect with buyers, certainly now in Victoria and previously across the entire country. How has your business benefited from the situation?
Well, it's been quite interesting, honestly. Obviously, after lockdown started, the amount of people going through display homes and open houses and all that kind of thing shot down hugely, which introduced quite an opportunity for us, because one of our key bases is that we're able to provide this kind of technology to people pretty much everywhere. So we actually experienced quite a lot of increased interest after COVID. And it's been quite interesting that the amount of property transactions that are now occurring digitally has just increased a lot. In my opinion, it's something that would have taken place over the next 5 years, but by being constricted in a way that we have been through COVID, it's kind of consolidated everything into about a 3-month period, which has been quite interesting. And I'm very interested to see how that's going to change the way that the industry acts from now on, especially with the increase in the amount of online presence that there is with a lot of developments. It's been pretty fantastic for us being able to provide this technology to companies that are trying to find ways to connect with their buyers in new ways, and especially now that so many people are working from home, and the likelihood that that's going to continue quite a fair bit into the future. Being able to provide that kind of technology to sellers of new developments has been quite a fundamental part of the last few months of our growth.
Now, Nick, you mentioned the reluctance, or I guess the slower than others speed that the construction industry has embraced technology. This situation here has really given most of us no choice but to do it. How much of that change that your customers and clients are adopting do you think is temporary versus structural and permanent?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think there's been some key learnings out of the last few months, especially for the building and construction industry. And with having remote workforces now, and project teams not necessarily being seated at each other's desks side by side, and contractors working on projects and things like that, the need and requirement for connectivity via tech has been a big thing for us. We've in the last probably 6 to 8 weeks, we've seen a huge shift from our business. And one of the key benefits of that is, well, one, not having building construction sites shut down during the COVID crisis and pandemic. And then also on top of that too, because of that, in order to stimulate the economy, projects being fast tracked by certain governments, and builders actually seeing an increase in the number of projects, new projects or new tenders that they're winning. So an example of that is towards the end of June. So a matter of weeks ago, we had 4 tier 1 builders, sign up with us to use PayApps because of the fact that their volume of work had increased. But because of that, they needed to structure up their businesses, because it's still the remote workforce, to ensure that their staff, their project teams, were all still connected in some way, shape or form to manage the increased workload in terms of volume.
Andrew, what about your perspective on that sort of temporary versus structural adoption change? What's your perspective through the lens of Comnia?
So we're seeing in the first couple of weeks of the shutdown, we did see like a declining data in terms of what was happening. There was less tendering going out. We have noticed that over the last, probably like Nick's saying, around 6 weeks, an increase, a dramatic increase in the amount of data going through the system, meaning that there's more activity again. For us, our guys, as the industry sort of wasn't shut down, it was business as usual, other than at that tendering stage. We're seeing that data drop off was about 50%, but it's pretty much back at full strength again at the moment. I think that answered your question, I hope.
Yep. Now, looking more sort of globally, Stephen, from your perspective, you mentioned, Fifth Wall in the United States raising $500 million to invest in Proptech. What's the kind of appetite at the moment now for investments in Proptech? You've kind of got 2 competing forces in a way. You've got this rapid adoption of new technology, but at the same time, significant disruption of asset classes in the way that we use the built form. Is it resulting in a wait and see kind of approach from the capital, or are there sort of, is there an appetite and a willingness to really get into it and back that change?
It's a really well put question, because it touches on the key points. I think the guys have touched upon this immediate appetite for new technology, and you're seeing a lot of people deliver technologies as a workaround for COVID. So a workaround around your hot desking technology, for example. There's now overlays to that. So you're seeing companies being quite agile adopting that to try and get a kind of sense of business as usual. In terms of that longer term pitching, we are hearing from the market and companies we deal with on the technology front that valuations and funding rounds are taking longer. And I think that is a function of risk. Obviously, we don't know the future. But the second thing is, and it kind of touches what I discussed earlier, is this is an opportunity for a fundamental redesign of how we use real estate. And as a result of that, the technologies that might have been the front runners 3, 4, 5 months ago might not be the ones in 6 months' time. So from an investment point of view, people are just taking that bit longer, but there is an appetite within the buyers of the technology to adopt technology that can actually help them in the short term.
I found one of the really interesting things from your presentation, the fact that, you know, the journey of PropTech in Australia went through this sort of exuberance early on, and then this kind of come down, and then now it's sort of getting back into an enlightened recovery in terms of its trajectory. And the other point you made about you know, the low-hanging fruit being the organisation of data, and then the commercialisation of those sorts of things. Where do you actually see Australia's PropTech sort of relative to the journey, and how do we stack up and compare to our international peers?
Australia is obviously very heavily invested emotionally and financially into real estate. So there's about 250 to 300, depending on how you view PropTech companies in Australia. Now, on a per capita basis, that's twice the size of somewhere like Germany or Spain. So Australia actually punches well above its weight in terms of that. Sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Well, how do we compare to our peers globally? But the first part of the question was really sort of where are we on that journey, that trajectory, if you sort of zoom out a little bit further?
Yeah, I think it depends on the institution. So there's some institutions that are really forward thinking and have tried accelerator programs. They might have a corporate venture capital vehicle. They'll have innovation teams. And there's a statistic, I think it's a global statistic, that 95% of companies actually have somebody involved in innovation. So there is that, at an Australian level, there is a lot of people getting involved in the sector. I think where you've seen the most success, so 23 of the 25 unicorns in PropTech are held in America and China. And that's a function of the fact that their domestic market is so big. So I think you were always going to struggle by virtue of the size of Australia in terms of actually getting that integration quicker than those countries. But I think on a per capita basis, we're up there in the top 10, I would say.
Yeah. Okay, now let's look to the future. We've got a few more minutes left. Again, I'll go around the grounds. Chris, I'll just start with you. You know, PropTech businesses, typically growth businesses, looking to scale up and sort of capture market. What are your sort of 3 to 5 year growth plans, and how do you intend to execute on them?
So, I mean, we have done about 100,000 parcel transactions now, and so really happy to kind of be hitting scale and really rolling out. I guess at the moment we're in many of the large, really corporate builders and property owners, which is great. And so I think, you know, rolling out through their portfolios is really the way that we're going to continue to grow. And as far as kind of international, that's not really a focus for us at the moment.
Yep. And do you intend to raise capital? Do you intend to sort of fund your growth through your own, you know, balance sheet?
Yeah, we have raised capital in the past, and we're not actively at the moment. But yeah, we're set for the time being, and yeah, just growing the team in terms of all areas of the business. Excellent.
Tim, what about you? What about your growth plans, the future, how you intend to resource that, and where you see yourself going?
Well, it's been quite interesting for us. We've pretty much been at our capacity for the last 6 months. So we've been designing processes to be able to output our deliveries on a much larger scale. So we've developed systems to be able to distribute within the Australian economy. which is something that we're really proud of, is being able to outsource parts of our work to skilled individuals within Australia. So we are looking for capital again later at the later stages of this year. We received some late last year, and we've gotten to the point now where we're starting to increase our delivery pipeline as well as our marketing and exposure. So in the 3 to 5 year goal, we're aiming to be able to spread across Australia. There are global plans a bit further down the line, but essentially we want to establish ourselves first in Australia over the next few years.
Okay, all right, excellent. Who's next? Nick, I'll sort of get a sense of how are you guys capitalised? How far along on the journey is PayApps, and what's the growth prospects for your business?
Yeah, the initial growth prospects for us here, especially in our Australian market, is to continue to push into that residential space. Predominantly speaking, our sweet spot has been that commercial space, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 sort of level. But what we've noticed in the last 6 to 12 months, we've started to branch out into that multi-residential development market. So that will continue to push across Australia and New Zealand. And from a global aspect, I mean, we've already got a significant presence within the US and the UK, but the growth factor for us from a global point of view will be especially in the UK market and continue to solidify that market share within the US market.
And what about in terms of your capital structure and raisings and those sorts of things? How are you guys resourced up like that?
Yeah, look, from that perspective, I mean, the business itself is currently going through that process, and from an investment point of view to help from that, to assist in that growth area. So I know a couple of our executives are having some side conversations separate from the business, but yeah, there's an opportunity there absolutely from an investment point of view in the business in line with our growth plans over the next 12, 24 months, 5 years even.
Excellent. Now, Andrew, you were very patient. You presented last, so I'll give you the final word. What's the growth trajectory for Comnia, and how is that to be resourced over the next 3 to 5 years?
Okay, so we've obviously been around a long time, so we're not a startup, and we're a healthy business. We really want to focus now on taking on a lot more sort of infrastructure and larger projects, as well as sort of very large scale residential projects for customers and developers that we haven't sort of really addressed in the past. We've always been builder centric up until the model changed, our software changed a couple of years ago. The growth plan for us, we really want to stay in Australia. We want to keep the business here. Although we've sold project licenses in the US in the past and into Asia, our focus predominantly is Australia at the moment. In terms of investment, there's at least, prior to COVID, we would be sort of someone knocking on the door from overseas, Canada or the US, constantly trying to either inject or buy the business out and then take it somewhere else. We're not done yet. So we really, really want to see we believe the growth for us is exponential right now. So yeah, we're really keen to stay here and expand our workforce.
Fantastic. Well, we wish you, along with all of our presenters today, the very best of luck in respect of that. Now, I'll just jump and bring my screen up one more time. We do have a final shout out for all of us. Obviously, thank you to Tim, Andrew, Stephen, Chris and Nick for your time today. I know there were some questions that we couldn't get to. All of the presenters' details have been shared within the chat, and they'll also be sent through to you in a follow-up email. We encourage you to reach out, connect, and also to ask any further questions that you may have of our presenters today. And just very, very finally, we do have another summit coming up. It's next Thursday. It's been very well responded to. It's our Co-Living and Build to Rent virtual summit. We've brought together a panel of experts from all across the world to really unpack what the future holds for this very interesting and very emerging institutional residential sector here in Australia. It sort of feels like a lot of the ducks are lining up for growth within this particular sector. And we've got a fantastic panel and a fantastic group of people from, as I said, all across the world to join us for that. That's next Thursday, and tickets are available at the Urban Developer. Finally, one more time to the team at PayApps, Ground Floor, Concept V and Comnia. Thank you very, very much. Stephen, thank you for your presentation as well this morning to set the scene. To all of our team at the Urban Developer, we thank you for organising and running things, and to all of you, most importantly, for tuning in. Thanks for your support. We really welcome your feedback. You'll be getting a survey. Help us help you by filling out that survey. And once again, to our panelists, thanks for your time, and we'll see you all very soon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.